Hello, everybody. Good morning, and it's Andre here today. And unfortunately, we don't have Mick today. And Mick's gone sailing, and he's having a whole lot of fun. And so he left the bag to me. And normally, Mick's the guy that sort of runs this show, and he does all the background stuff. So if I'm gonna mess it up, guys, understand that. I apologize right up front. As you can see, I'm in a place with a great green screen, which I thought, everybody puts something behind the green screen. I thought today I'm just going to leave the green screen. So, you can see all the amazing activity around the green screen. So hopefully that will help everybody, make them happy. I mean, green is a happy thing, isn't it? I mean, that's what St. Patrick's Day is all about. So, guys, what today's all about is we're going to talk about our 5 tips, of how to, complete the year strong, basically. The whole philosophy behind this is, guys, we're in a unique industry, and how we drive revenue and obviously our profitability and our cash is a little bit different to many other industries. And the way we can maybe engineer a good year versus not such a good year. There are some areas that we can always influence. And those are the areas that we want to focus on today. So we have 5 key tips to give you today. And, let's think a little bit about, what those could look like. I will start looking at, I'll start opening our PowerPoint. And I know, guys, that this is an area that we try not to have too many slides. I get it. But it's sort of just helpful to be able to give people a little bit of, insight into, what's happening. So let's think about our tip number 1. Our tip number 1 is all about, sell and deliver. So really, so we're going to go from tip number 5 to tip number 1. So the first thing is we want to talk about the sell and deliver capability within your organization. Now, in order to think this through, if we take the revenue formula, for example, and we just say, hey, revenue is equal to what have we delivered today that was previously sold, right? So we deliver stuff today that was sold maybe last year, plus what are we selling and delivering this year? And what we're noticing is that we don't really measure these 2 components, or there's not a lot of evidence of the fact that we measure these 2 components. And it's often interesting to see if you did measure this, or if you do measure this, which of these 2 components are growing in your organization. Is your revenue growing because of what you previously sold, or is your revenue growing because you're selling and delivering more work during the current period of time? And that's a helpful indicator, because that helps you with your strategic planning and so on. So, of course, what we're wanting to do, the only option we have right now is to improve our sold and delivered for this year. That's our option. So let's work out, what is it? What is the historicals? How much did we sell and deliver previously? And also now, what are the plan? How do we turbocharge that ability to sell and deliver just a little more, so that we can finish off our year just that little more stronger? And really, at the end of the day, having a really strong capability to have this rapid sell and deliver is very powerful for most of our flooring or commercial flooring businesses, and especially if we can step it up a little bit. So please measure your sold and delivered for the current period, and let's get that growing as strong as possible. So hopefully that is your tip number 5. Tip number 4, we're going to talk a little bit about backlog. Okay, guys, we have spoken about backlog for a while now, and we're still seeing a little bit of evidence where our backlog is it is taken a little bit for granted. All right. And remember, I mean, this is obvious, but the backlog is the nutrient that feeds our earned revenue, right? And how we manage and look after our backlog is really a critical component. And one of the big difficulties that we have in this industry is ultimately forecasting revenue, right? So our ability to say, okay, this is what we will earn for August, September, October is often a difficult area that we have, and understandingly, because projects get shifted all over the place. But it is something that we can start by just looking at, how much of our backlog do we believe we're going to deliver, and let's start in the next 30 or 60 days, depending on which sort of category you feel comfortable, and that we call aging the backlog. So, have the total backlog and say, well, how much of that backlog will be delivered in the next 30 days or 60 days, the next 90 days, and the next, let's call the next segment 180 days, so that we can really get a feel for, okay, I mean, it's just another way of really creating our forecast as such, isn't it? So the minute we know this is the amount of backlog that we should be converting into revenue in the next 30 days, and then we can see, is that really what happened? And get very, very in touch with our backlog. The other idea is, if we don't like just the aging of our backlog, let's segment our backlog into two categories. Let's say we have two components to our backlog, which is, let's call it the quick turn backlog and the long term backlog. And we put in the quick turn work in our backlog, and you can define your quick turn whichever way you want to. Hey guys, let's say you define your quick turn as those projects that we sell and deliver within 6 months, or hey, for some of us it would be those projects that we sell and deliver within, let's call it 3 months, right? And then we have obviously the longer term, which is defined whichever way it is. Now, if you think about it, segment 1 plus segment 2 is equal to total backlog, right? But one of the things that's nice about doing this is that you can see the change in the size of the backlog between your quick turn and long term. So if you are very, very heavy in quick turn work, right, what you want to do strategically is grow the longer term, or at least keep the quick turn, but grow the longer term backlog. If you're very, strong in your long term, so the majority of your backlog is long term, what you want to do is, start developing the quick turn backlog. So that can help maybe from a strategic viewpoint. And of course, in order to help our current period, we got to, focus on that quick turn backlog and make sure that that's nice and robust in order to create some of that revenue to deliver. So there is tip number 4 is backlog. Tip number 3, guys, change orders. Here's the thing about change orders. It is so obvious, right? Okay, but there is normally at this time of the year, what we're wanting to do is to ensure that those, let's call it those pending change orders, those ones that, we collected all these tickets, we may not have got them fully approved, we may not have done all of those good things. This is the time for us to really get those change orders into place and actually start booking them and creating revenue from those change orders. Because if we let that linger too long, what happens with that. Okay, so in the obvious area, it's usually this is the good revenue portion if it's managed correctly. And remember, our key let's call it our key requirement around change orders is we think that having a good solid change order log that takes us through the pending, the approved, that whole cycle of the change order thing, even if that is a duplication of work, we believe that is a very, very valuable at least management component around change orders, so that we can see every potential change order, how much of those has actually been converted and how much of that isn't. Because sometimes there's change orders that, it's maybe not strategically right in terms of the relationship with our customer, whether we should convert it or not. So that is an important component of, let's try and bring those change orders in. Let's get them into the system. And, that was really a good focus for making sure our revenue is where it should be in this year, at least. Well, any year, but so change orders, please, guys. And, we've noticed with change orders, hey, when we have that push, geez, suddenly there's this little jump in revenue, and then, well, we get busy with other things. So change orders is never ending. Okay, tip number 2 is partnerships, guys. That what we are finding is when we start having some good partnering with like-minded trains. For example, the significant commercial painting organization, how we can sort of work together to make create a value proposition to the GC or even to the end user. And often, those partners, if we truly partner well, they will bring us to opportunities and we'll bring them to opportunities. So, I must say, we're finding that the people that do this well, right, really, it's amazing that they, the opportunities are so much more richer, so much more greater, and normally these opportunities when there are partnering involved are the more negotiated opportunities. So, and that's what we want, isn't it, guys? Because the minute we can get to that place where we can negotiate, now negotiate doesn't mean, in our world at least, doesn't mean the lowest price, right? Negotiated means, hey guys, we are going to create the value that you need, and of course we need to get paid for it properly. So having those partners, this is possibly during this last sort of phase of the year, thinking about this, getting our mindset around partners, if that's who we are, sort of wired for, and let's try and use that sort of strategy to help us grow good revenue. Remember, that's one of the key objectives that we have. Let's grow that good revenue. So number 2 is partners, and let's develop our partners. Let's develop the partnership network. Let's get our salespeople thinking about partnering instead of just only thinking about going to the bid board. Different ways of creating good revenue that's often so much more sustainable than the bid board. And then, of course, lastly is number 1 is integrating the field. This is our number 1. And, you may not have thought about it that way. You may see it differently. But the one thing that we definitely believe in so strongly, because there is true evidence around this, real strong evidence around this, is the way that the field and our field management integrates with the customer, with the objective of getting the next job. So part of the field's objective, part of the goal that we drive inside the field is to get the next job. And having our field, the people that are, that are so connected. Yes, and I know the argument could be, well, many of the people in the field don't really speak to decision makers. They may not. But I can tell you one thing now, they definitely influence how the decision makers think about our organization. And they can create relationships where ultimately the field says, hey, where are we going to next? And they want us in the next job. So, the way that we talk with our people in the field, the way that we, have a process by which they can really feel part of our revenue generating capability is, it really is game changing. And, is it obvious? Once again, absolutely. Does it get done very well? Very few times. Very few times. There's some possible, great examples where we see this working so well. But yet, when we talk about it with senior management, it's pretty much not high on the priority list. Very, very, very seldom is this, the number 1 to 5 on the priority list. And it does take effort, guys. It does take effort. It takes effort with, just how we want our people in the field to think about the way that they create and help create the next job. We honestly, it's obvious, but the sales guy really creates the first job. The way operations executes is always the ability to get the second job and there onwards, and to make the sales process so much more easier. And so execution is everything to me. Execution is everything, because if we execute well, we'll always get the next job. And in addition to that, that is our value proposition. You think about a value proposition, it is about execution. And often we think about value propositions as being something that is this very difficult thing to do. Hell, in our business, you execute well, you make your customer's life easy, you help your customer be successful, you have a very powerful value proposition. So those are the 5 key areas of what you can start thinking about right now. Okay, so remember, we're in the beginning of the month. We've just completed July, so we've got really 5 months to help think about the way that we're going to finish off the year. And guys, if you think about that from another space as well, when do we start planning for? When do we start doing our strategic planning? And in my mind, many of us start our strategic planning, November, December. I'm saying that's already too late. We should be starting to think about it in September, maybe latest October, and really use that time frame to understand, what sort of backlog will we have for 2022? What are the key strategies that we want to have in place? Because by the time the new year starts, we've got to be up and running well with our planning for that year. So please also start thinking about when we're going to do our planning, and really think about how that planning is going to be maybe slightly different this year to what it was last year. So guys, we'll make this really nice and punchy and easy, and hopefully Mick will be back next week, and this will give us a little bit of a different way that we're going to start doing these live shows. We're going to get a lot more people to just participate from different areas, some vendor participation, obviously some management participation from different companies that we work with. So we're going to try and do a little more interviewing. I know that's something that people have said, hey, we love it when others give their opinion. So we're going to do more of that, and keep it as interesting as possible and have some fun. So thank you so much, guys. Have a beautiful week, and we will see you next Wednesday. All the best. Bye-bye, guys.